Ahead of the upcoming Nigerian-Brazil strategic dialogue mechanism, Vice Presido Kashim Shettima don tok say sake of Oga Presido Bola Ahmed Tinubu bold and courageous leadership plus well-thought-out policies, Naija don enter new growth path ready for investment for different sectors. Dis one come as Brazil Vice Presido Gerardo Alckmin, wey lead one group of top executives from Brazil public and private sectors, go enter Naija for the second session of Brazil-Nigeria mechanism for strategic dialogue after more than 10 years. For one meeting wey shele on Tuesday for the presidential villa with relevant ministries and agency heads, VP Shettima come tok say with Presido Tinubu, Naija get leader wey show say e get the ability and the courage to hope for a better tomorrow. E come also express confidence say the ministers sabi the main issues wey dem go discuss during the dialogue later this year.
Well, this is a highly productive meeting, and I want to profoundly register our gratitude to our honorable ministers for coming to honor our invitation. Nigeria is at an inflection point. All nations go through similar phases. A bold and courageous leadership, well thought out policies, and the gumption, the courage to embark on gigantic changes, they have conspired to meet at a confluence in Nigeria. And we have to give credit to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for some of the bold initiatives that is really putting us on a new trajectory. Brazil and Nigeria share a lot of similarities. The population of Brazil is 211. The population of Nigeria is 230 million people. Brazil has the highest concentration of people of African descent outside Nigeria. There are more Orisha worshippers in Brazil than in Nigeria. And most of the Brazilians of African descent are tracing their ancestry to the West Coast. And when you talk of the West Coast, everybody knows what you are referring to. And the involvement of the ministers is absolutely essential because at a strategic dialogue meeting, it's you and I that will meet with the Brazilian vice president and his team. So there has to be some clarity, some strategic coherence, and a deep understanding of issues that will be tabled for discussion. And I have to confess that I was highly impressed by the grasp of issues by all our respective ministers. And we can leverage on several fronts. We have no business being poor in this country. Almeria region in Spain, they produce about 65% of the total fruits and vegetables consumed in Europe. It's a desert, desolate land. Now it's even viewed from the space. 40,000 hectares under greenhouse cultivation. That goes to show that where there is a will, there is always the way. And in President Bola Tinubu, we have a leader who has shown that dexterity, that audacity to hope for a better tomorrow. And most of our ministers are square pegs in square holes. So I want to urge you to really take charge of the initiative, of the discussions, so that we can elevate it to the next level. Let's walk the talk. We can talk from now till eternity. The most important thing is for us to actualize those dreams. The Honorable Minister of Health was talking about the retrovirals. We were in Davos together. I said Africa needs that shock therapy. I did not go to Davos with a begging bowl seeking for aid or assistance. No. I want to deal with people on a pedestal of equality. We should learn to carry our poverty with dignity and talk to people as equals. We are not the vassal state of any nation. And we have the intellect. If you listen to the delivery of the ministers, you know that our people are on top of their jobs. The technical assistant has most of these figures at her fingertips. She's a Kenyan. The Kenyan people could not utilize her talent, so we brought her in to really tap her intellect. Dr. Kingsley Uzoma has 3 PhDs from Belgium, from Japan, from so many places. He knows the north of Nigeria better than I do. These are people with talent. And even when you want to make the presentation for the write-offs, the DCOS is a working encyclopedia who was maximally utilized by Governor Baduru when he was the chief executive of Igawan State. We have Professor Hakim Baba Ahmed. We have Dr. Modibo, Ali Umar. These are people with the institutional memory, with the track record, who can go down memory lane and regale us with stories of 30 years, 40 years, when Olusegun Obasanjo was the president, and so on. So I think we have the resources and the institutional knowledge to make this country work. Let us drive this process. As rightly said by the ministers, we have, how do I put it, some deficit, reliability deficit. They don't see us as serious people. For the first time, let's make them trust us and respect us. And respect is earned, it's not demanded. We have to walk the talk. It's so sad. It's just a pond. It's the ocean that divides us with Brazil. But if you are going to Brazil, you have to go through Dubai, South Africa, Ethiopia, before you come back again. Yes, with Barrick years ago, but due to our poor initiative, it died down. So I'm talking to the chairman of Peace Air. He has agreed to play ball. So during that strategic dialogue mechanism meeting, we'll take them up on that, where we can sign a bilateral travel agreement. So I want to once again thank you. Let's continue the conversation. Lastly, again, I will urge our ministers to drive the process. The different strategic focus groups, let them give you weekly updates on how far they have gone, so that when they come, they will see a much more serious Nigerian team than the one they were meeting in the past. The last time such a meeting took place was in 2013, and it's something that should take place biannually, I think, every 2 years in one of the 2 countries. So, and I believe that we are ready to work now. Thank you so much. And I'm wishing you Mr. Mubarak.
Mariam Moon, technical assistant to the Presido on Agriculture, come chook mouth on top the $1.1 billion Green Imperative project wey go help modernize Naija agriculture using Brazil's expertise. She constantly talks say,
Note, as I said, that strategic dialogue mechanism is only with a few countries. So Brazil has this with Russia, China, Argentina, and Nigeria. We want to appreciate that there are some things we are doing with Brazil at the moment when it comes to trade and investments. We are currently exporting 22% of our urea, which is now the 2nd largest export out of Nigeria after oil. It's going to Brazil. We are working on the Green Imperative project on agricultural development, a $1.1 billion investment. There are various conversations that are ongoing currently with the creative economy, and we also have a long-standing discussion and collaboration around defense with Brazil. So we do have some engagements ongoing with them. It's also very important for us to note that the current Vice President of Brazil, His Excellency Alckmin, is also serving as their Minister of Development, Industry, Trade and Services. This is very significant because he carries a lot of clout and pulling power within their private sector. So for this strategic dialogue, we really want to leverage his goodwill within the sector and are looking at having alongside the strategic dialogue a high-level trade and investment forum to maximize his influence within the private sector in Brazil. We have 7 working groups with each of your ministries participating, and just to give you a few insights for us to really appreciate and lay the foundation for the deep dive that we hope we will do over the next few months. So if you look at trade, Brazil their amount of FDI going into Brazil right now is growing exponentially, right? We're having a 212% increase, right, over the last 4 or 5 years. That is massive. Brazil is really on a very strong trajectory. We're looking at our trade with Brazil. We can see that it is decreasing. We are exporting less to Brazil. We're importing more from Brazil. So we need to start looking at our trade balance and what is it we can do for an economy that is growing at this pace. We have agriculture and food security. The data speaks for itself. Brazil is, top 3 globally when it comes to agriculture, both in terms of production and also export. And this cuts across crops, livestock. We know their position when it comes to livestock. This creates a market, for certain inputs that they do not have, and also an opportunity to collaborate on research and so on. We have culture and education, science and technology working group. One of the things we're seeing as we look into the statistics, recognizing how advanced their public health systems are. What is it we can learn from Brazil? What is working for them? What can we adapt and build our own systems here? If you look at Brazil, when it comes to things like education, the amount that they have invested in their education, what are those systems, what are those models that we can look at and adopt and leverage here in Nigeria? The next, of course, is foreign affairs and consular. How can we improve what we're doing with them? Looking at Brazil's growing presence in the geopolitical space, our recent entry in as a partner in the BRICS. How can we leverage Brazil's current influence? And then we have energy and climate working group. Brazil is leading a lot in renewable energy. There's a lot of innovation, a lot of policies that they have done to really build this space in Brazil. How could we work together, both in terms of our role in the global economy, but also what can we do internally to build and learn from what they have been able to do. So we're here today, as Deepos has said, to commence this, to have an April check-in, so at the end of April present to His Excellency the Vice President through the Honorable Ministers, what have we been able to negotiate, what are we looking at, because it's very important that we are also developing these agendas in synergy and in collaboration. We are one country, and how are all these things we're suggesting talking to each other. And then finally we will hold the session, both the Trade and Investment Forum and then the Strategic Dialogue in the end of May.
Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy, Hannatu Musawa, and the representative of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Janet Olisa, took mouth on top the cultural, agricultural, tourism and military benefits of the partnership, say plenty Naija people dey Brazil wey wan connect with Naija.
We're expecting strong cultural diplomacy between Nigeria and Brazil. As I've said often, the relationship and the partnership between Nigeria and Brazil is a real non-brainer, because apart from the fact that we share a lot of cultural similarity, there's a huge population of Brazilians who have of Nigerian descent in Brazil who have a lot of interest to experience, this great culture that we have, specifically from the Southwest. We have already engaged the Brazilians quite actively in signing an MOU, which we're also almost at the finalizing stages. But instead of just stopping at collaborating when it comes to cultural exchanges, we decided to expand that conversation to also include the creative industry. The Brazilian population has a lot of interest in the content and culture and talent and just the creative industry that comes out of Nigeria. So we wanted to use that opportunity to expand that unity and that partnership that we're going to have under the MOU. Of course, one of the things that I've often spoken about again is the importance of us giving Nigerians, specifically of Brazilians of Nigerian descent, who really relate with the Orisha religion, to give them something in Nigeria, a sort of national edifice here in Nigeria, where they can come to Nigeria and experience what that religion is all about. So we're actively working on that as well. And then again, part of the partnership that we want to have with Brazil is to see how we can tap into our tourism asset because Brazil has done it very well. You go and see their favelas. You know, they've been able to monetize it in a way that Nigeria has been unable to. And then lastly, the Nigeria House in Bahia, in El Salvador, we want to bring that up to its past glory so that everywhere in the world, when you go to Brazil, you get an experience of what Nigeria is through the Nigeria House.
What we're expected to do right now is to start the mechanism of ensuring that all the different co-chairs, which we have about 7 committees, each of the committee needs to enlarge its committee, bring in all the relevant MDAs, make sure that every aspect that we believe we can benefit and cooperate with Brazil is put on the table. What you had today is just the co-chairs of the committees, not the large committee as a whole. So a lot of ministries, agencies are going to be involved. And then, like tomorrow, we're expecting the foreign minister of Brazil. He's coming to pay a courtesy call on his counterpart, His Excellency Ambassador Tuga, and as well bring a special letter to the president. And we're expected that at the end of the day, we will also look at the green imperative, which Ms. Miriam will talk about. But for us in foreign affairs, what is key is that it's been a long journey, and we're grateful to the Vice President for finally having this thing come to pass. In a very long journey, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been organizing interministerial year after year, month after year, but finally we are coming to fruition where we'll get all the ministries. And the fact that the ministers were here to own their own role is very, very key to ensure, because we civil servants we can work, but we need them to drive the process to make sure that all of us are accountable to each of our committees, and that is what we will call for foreign affairs.
Make no forget say, as we see them, now so we dey talk 'em. We know the take blame. A Kata Ojisele reporting for TMC TV.